Hi, Mrs. Kennedy here. Today we are covering Unit 4, American Political Ideologies and Beliefs, Day 1, Core Political Values. So before we get into the core political values, first you need to understand a term called political culture. And political culture is like how the relationship between the United States government and the citizens is formed. What are the values or important characteristics that define that relationship that you and I have with our government? In the United States, there are 5 main core values that shape our political culture. The first core value is called individualism. And this is the belief that citizens, individuals, are responsible for themselves and the decisions they make. And it's a social and political philosophy that promotes my personal individual well-being over the well-being of society as a whole. So in this value, you're going to see a lot of people following the philosophy of what's best for me versus what's best for the U.S. or society as a whole. And wearing masks during COVID is a perfect example of individualism. And so a lot of people are going to choose to wear it or not wear it because that's what's best for them. Or they're going to choose to wear it or not wear it because that's what they believe is best for society in the United States as a whole. It's a personal, individual decision. Individualism is also the big driving force of the settlement of North America. People were fleeing their countries in Europe because of persecution and coming to a place that they knew nothing about with the idea or belief that they could do something better for themselves. What was best for them? Leaving the country they knew, right, and starting fresh. It is also the driving force that leads millennials, such as myself, to marry later in life and have kids later in life. All right, I'm 36. I have 2 kids. I have a 5-year-old and a 1-year-old. So I didn't have my first kid until I was 30, almost 31, right? And my second kid right before I turned 35. So it's this big personal idea, right? This individual belief to postpone getting married or getting married later or postpone having kids or only having 1 or no kids. Right, and yes, there are a lot of extenuating like economic factors at play there, right? Mounds of student debt, prices skyrocketing for college tuition or home costs, and wages staying relatively the same. Right, so yes, you have those outside factors, but at the end of the day, I'm still going to do what's best for me, right? And what was best for me was waiting a little bit longer to have kids. I didn't want to have them in my early 20s. I wanted to have them later. Okay, the second core political value is called equality of opportunity, which pretty much believes that everybody has an equal chance at success. Right? Everyone has the ability to put in their efforts and be successful. All right, and we're not talking about like individual, like outside circumstances outside your control, right? Nobody can control a global pandemic, right? Nobody can control COVID. But what you can control, right, is the effort that you put into your everyday work, right? Whether you have a job, whether it's school, whether it's other extracurriculars, you are in charge of the effort that you put into those things. And so your successes are going to be based off of the efforts that you put in. Now, equality of opportunity is not the same thing as the equality of outcome, right? The outcome for everybody might look different. So example I use for seniors who are headed off into the real world, right? Does everyone have the ability to apply to college, to a college? Yes. Will everybody get in where they want to go? No. Are they going to take the path that they thought they might take? Maybe not. right? And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, right? But just because everybody has the opportunity to do these things doesn't necessarily mean that everybody gets to reap the exact same reward. Third is free enterprise or laissez-faire. These should be familiar terms coming from your economics class. And so with this core political value, right, citizens and businesses want the government to intrude as little as possible in those economic decisions that we make on a daily basis, right? What to spend, how much to spend, what to buy, etc. Right? We make those decisions for ourselves. The government does not set wages, prices, or items to be produced. Yes, we have a federal minimum wage, so like everyone is required to make at least this, but they can't dictate to certain industries, you must pay your employees X amount of money. Government does not set prices of goods. Supply and demand sets prices of goods. Right? So if you take Lululemon, for example, right, on their online website, they have a section called the We Made Too Much. And really what that means is these are the patterns and colors and styles that did not sell well. So now we're going to reduce the price to get them off our shelves. The demand for these items wasn't high. So now we're going to reduce the price and get them off the shelf. Right, the government also does not set what items get produced, right? Businesses get to determine what they want to produce. Now, on occasion, equality and freedom contradict, so that freedom to make those economic decisions can sometimes be intruded on by the government. And an example here is Obamacare. Right? So the Affordable Care Act was passed under the Obama administration, which pretty much mandated that people purchase health insurance if they were not covered before. Right? And if they didn't, then there would be a fine when they filed their taxes. Right? And so you have this belief, right, where the government is not intruding in our decision making, but then they also force you to purchase health insurance. And so you see a little bit of a contradiction there. Okay, fourth is rule of law, which means that everybody has to follow the law. The big belief that public officials, president, vice president, your Supreme Court justices, your senators, right, everybody follows the same laws, right? And that's part of the social contract, right? That's asking you to refresh on your U.S. history and world history terms, right? But this idea that like we function together as a society because we have rules in place. And that everyone has to follow those rules. And then we have systems in place to ensure that this happens, hypothetically speaking, right? Fair trials, impartial juries, transparency of government operations, right? We have the Freedom of Information Act. We can request information from our government, right, to make sure that these elected officials are doing the things that they're supposed to be doing. And then we also have a government system in place, checks and balances, which you should be familiar with, which allows each branch of the government to monitor the behavior of the other branches to prevent them from abusing their powers. So everyone has to follow the law. Right? The president cannot go murder somebody because they're the president and get away with it. Right? Still going to go to trial. Okay, the last core principle is called limited government, which means that the government is limited by the document that governs it. So in the United States, we have the U.S. Constitution, right? And so the government, the U.S. government as a whole, is limited by that document, right? It has specific words that say what the government can and cannot do, right? And so they are bound to uphold that document. Right? And within that, citizens have inherent rights, life, liberty, and property that the government cannot take away. Right? The Constitution doesn't give them the power to do that without going through due process, right? But that's outlined in the Constitution. Okay, so for class, I want you to think on this question. How do the Constitution and the Bill of Rights reflect the 5 American core values that you just took notes on? All right, I want you to come to class being ready to answer that question. See you next time. Bye.